Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible. Today we're doing something a little different because as you can see, I am not in my normal studio. We have all kinds of stuff here because I'm in the VintNerd's studio. I'm down here in sunny California and I decided to come down here and visit with him and some other YouTubers, and you're going to be seeing a lot more collaboration stuff coming up soon. And today I did an interview with Steve, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of Atari stuff, retro stuff, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. So let's get into it. So the VintNerd, where did you come up with that name?
Well, if you go back a couple years, what is this, 2023?
Yes, last time I checked.
Yeah. For those watching in the future, so this would be back in January 2021. Before any other events that happened, on January 5th, after Mrs. VintNerd, Mickey, was graciously tired of me talking about Atari 8-bits. I'm like,
oh yeah, put that graciously tired.
Like, do you know this thing? Look at this thing. Those are the first portable and so forth. And she's like, you should do a YouTube channel. Get off my back. No, she didn't say that part. But I'm like, are you, really? YouTube? Do I have the charisma for it? Like, I don't know. I had done a radio show before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Computers, actually, as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Many a year ago. So we started brainstorming. Like, okay, we can do this. What do we can call ourselves? So we were running through names and stuff, and I like red wine. I mean, if we're gonna go out somewhere, and if you're gonna choose the drink and you want, I'll choose the red wine.
Okay.
It's supposed to be good for my cholesterol, right? That's what I tell myself.
So you tell yourself, yes.
So she came up.
Accidents. There you go.
Yeah. Right. She came up with the play on words, the vintage and nerd, which I have been correctly accused of being before, and came up with VintNerd, the VintNerd, and then lo and behold, we're like, no, nobody has that. The VintNerd.com, the VintNerd YouTube name.
That's nice.
The VintNerd on Instagram, and all this. Like, nowadays, can you pick a name that you could just get across all the channels? And we were very lucky and fortunate on that. So we set up the YouTube channel, got the domain name and so forth. So if you go back to the register for the internets and check the VintNerd.com, you'll see, well, it got late in the evening. So it was like at 1 a.m. January 6th, 2021. For the VintNerd, a day that will live in infamy. That's how we came with the name. That's how this all started.
Cool. That's neat. I was wondering if you like wine, because it's like, have you ever tried making wine? Because the VintNerd.
I have not tried the Lucille Ball method of barrel crushing with your feet,
no.
But I have had homemade wine.
Okay.
From past family connections. That stuff's pretty good. Okay. So a lot of oxidants in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Antioxidants.
Exactly. Cool. Looking around your shop, I've noticed that there's a general theme with a couple of exceptions. We have some random Commodore and TI and stuff, but you seem very much interested in Atari. Why Atari?
Well, these are all my original birthday gifts from my teenage life.
Okay.
No, that's not true. These are all my original eBay purchases from my adult life.
Right.
And my first computer, and I think it was yours as well, was the Atari 400, which isn't the one that's on the wall up here. Is unfortunately not that. That went to recycling a long time ago. Right. Before it was retro.
Recycling? Wow.
Well, whatever you call it back then.
Yeah.
So my first computer was the Atari 400. So I've done so much with the Atari 8-bits. You know, you moved up the 800XL, you got this drive. I was running off cassettes back then. And then in my later teenage years, I actually was doing memory upgrades on the 800XLs when whatever magazine came out with the instructions, the piggyback chips on it and all. And then I started working for a local company, Quantum Micro Systems, QMS or QMI, where they made Atari products. So a gentleman named John Lamar created, and he called it the R-Link for the R device.
Okay.
So it was a single serial port off the SIO port.
So a replacement for like the 850?
Right.
But the serial version of like a parallel, like the ICD boxes, but a serial one, so you put in a normal modem? Or...
Yeah, just serial on that device. And, you know, I was soldering things on there when we had to tweak them and so forth. And then moved on to devices for the Atari ST. QMI made desk cart, actual cartridge that goes inside, on the side of the ST.
So you actually worked with Atari stuff.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah.
So it embedded it even further for me for having all that knowledge. Just like when they say like you can teach somebody something, they'll retain like 90%. So I have retained like 10% of my 40-year-old knowledge on these things, and I'm like, that still works. I don't remember how to do that though.
Right.
So what is amazing nowadays, everything's on the internet. You know, if you can't find it on the internet, it probably didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So everything over 40 years, a PDF of any book, keyword searching it, cutting and pasting into, you know, emulators.
So much easier now.
And then you got things like FujiNet that just make it so much easier now.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is definitely a difference. You know, I think back a lot of, if I had the same technology I do now, back when I was a kid and having this, it would have been amazing, you know, to be able to like, oh, I'll just look up that code.
If we had all that same technology, we would have had Chat GPT on our Atari 800s, except it would have been in the Sam voice, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, you should. Yeah, the Sam. I totally remember that. That definitely a distinct voice.
Well, you know, FujiNet does it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I heard it earlier. Yeah, you're messing with it. You know, Atari is one of those things that, or one of those companies that is interesting in that they were successful until they weren't. It was like this cliff where they did so great, and then something happened. And then things weren't great anymore. In your mind, what could have Atari done to not have bad things happen?
Well, anything I say is my own personal opinion. And from my experiences and my guesses, there are other words you can use, but this is a family show, right?
Yes, it is a family show.
So I don't know if they could have done anything more than they tried to do.
Okay.
So quick history, really quick. 1979, after the 2600 probably bankrolled their future endeavors. The Atari 400 and 800.
Yep.
Right? But if you know those machines, or if you don't and you've picked one up, they're heavy because they're encased in all that metal.
Yes.
Because God forbid you interact with your neighbor's CB antenna or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So they were early to the game.
Yeah.
Some people are gonna hate me for this. Let's say they were the Samsung of the day that came out with the foldable phone, and you're like, why doesn't Apple make a foldable phone? And Apple goes, we have a foldable phone, but it's really not ready yet, and so we're not gonna release it. Let everybody else figure it out, and then we'll release it.
Right.
So Atari was like a Samsung where they came out with stuff, and then Commodore's like, we don't need all this shielding anymore, and we're bringing this to market cheaper.
Yeah.
As well as some of the other machines that did that. And then Atari came out with the 1200 XL, but was kind of a flop. Then they really hit big with the 800 XL.
Right.
And like if you go on eBay, that's usually what's mostly out there, at least in the US here.
Yeah.
You can really get your hand on an 800 XL. But after the 8-bit days, well, pretty much everybody knows the story. They sold out to Warner Brothers or Warner Brothers. I'm not going to get all this right because it doesn't matter anymore. And then Tramiel bought that after coming from Commodore, and they came out with the Atari STs, and people think the Atari XEs are cheaper units, and they are right. They are cheaper units, but they were great in the day.
They look cool.
Yeah. So Atari ST came out. I moved on to that. But then IBM PC happened.
Yeah.
And DOS.
Yep.
And eventually Windows. And you can look at Atari's history where they came out, with the Stacy Portable for the ST line to get a portable out there. But, they actually came out with an Atari PC as well. And then you got the first Palm Top, which is the Atari Portfolio.
And what could that be used for, Steve?
A paperweight?
What about ATMs,
for Terminator.
Yes.
Yep.
I always love that. Yeah. It's like let's advertise our product for crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, really?
So, they were trying to move into the PC world. But by then, you just had all these compatibles, all these copycats and everything. And it's no longer just a simple homework. I mean, take this for example. Computers, at least what I know, don't come with BASIC anymore. Right? Everything back then was hobbyists, like us, right? Like we're cranking early. I think my first computer, I was 13 or 14 or something. I'm cranking in a BASIC and doing sprites and stuff. I don't do that now.
Of course.
If you got a nephew that's 13 and you got them a computer and said, here's a copy of BASIC in Windows, write something, they'll be like, I'm going on Instagram. Yeah. They're just using it. So you had a small group of homebrewers, hobbyists, early adopters, and that's great. The masses don't want what those machines do. Right. So the masses wanted machines, IBM compatibles, and eventually Windows, that did what the masses wanted to do, and now it's all homogenized. And what's Atari going to do? Just produce IBM clones? Right. So then they're out.
But now I would say that.
Oh no! And then they went to the Jaguar.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say. I think the difference is that depending on how you look at it, there's the computer line, but then there's also the console line. With the 2600. Did you have a 2600 back then?
No.
You didn't? Okay, nope. So you started with the 400. You didn't
Correct.
have the 2600 at all.
Well, I originally started with Pong.
Sure. Pong, but then for a lot of people, myself included, it was I never had a Pong, but I had a 2600. It was like that was the thing that you got, but then they came out with the 5200 and the 7800 and all these different things,
and the Jaguar and
the Jaguar and all
Lynx. I forgot about Lynx.
Yeah. But one of the things is, Atari was a game company, and then they were making computers. And then, they brought in a bunch of suits in there, and then they weren't interested in games. They wanted to make other things with it. So it's kind of interesting to me to kind of see your point of view, because not being on the console side, it's a kind of a very different story, because on the console side, it was a very...
Now, when you say consoles, you mean the game machines.
The game machines, as in 2600, 5200.
Yeah, and those I'm just clarifying that, because there's also like terminal consoles and so forth.
Yeah,
but
not those. I'm just talking about the console game systems,
which were all pretty much cartridge based.
Yeah, they were all cartridge based. The 5200 coming out, which is basically a 400 without a keyboard and just some bits changed on it, but it's basically the same idea. But that came out at the same time as the 2600, or a little bit after, and it was competing with themselves, which was kind of an interesting thing. So it's just kind of interesting to hear what you thought. And once you got into when the PCs became ubiquitous, and it was like, especially when the clones came out, it was, in my opinion, at that point, their fate was sealed. There's not much they could do at that point.
However, if you look at them nowadays, I'm thinking things I'm not going to say.
Okay.
But it's all primarily their proprietary assets, their games that they have, that they in some ways remilk them again, but they do come out with some pretty cool things
on the VCS and stuff.
But even online, My viewers, if you go to my channel, I did some videos where I was playing Asteroids, official Atari Asteroids, on an iPad through a website that was free at AARP. Yeah, so you think it's funny, it's actually pretty good. Try it.
There's been some sayings about we're gonna have nursing homes with video games, consoles and arcade games and all this stuff. It's just gonna
So AARP, anybody doesn't know that,
you're not.
What's the acronym stand for? Adult
retired persons, adults or association for something.
Association of Adult Retired. Sorry. We're plugging it, but non gratatis.
You're old.
So,
you have a.
So it's AARP.org or you Google it, and they have a games section, and Atari has lended. I don't know what their deal is, but it's people who are retiring are the ones that played Asteroids in the arcade.
That's funny. That's what surprised me at all. Hey, you know your demographic. That's really
So Atari is still working that stuff into the new areas.
Why do you think that Atari fans are so diehard? Like for me, it was always when I started with Atari, it was always Atari, and nothing else was ever on my radar, and it was just and that's I kind of feel like that's more of a universal thing, and I know the Commodore guys would say the same thing, but it's it's a for me it was it's kind of okay, well, what are you going to get? What new computer game? It's going to be an Atari. Well, why not? Going from 8-bit to 16-bit. Well, obviously I'm going to get an Atari. Why would I look at anything else? What's your take on that? Why do you think that is?
Are we talking back then or are we talking now?
Kind of throughout the years, I guess.
Well, for me, throughout the years, there's a big black hole in the middle.
Okay.
That was all computer consulting with PCs and Windows and so forth. And I still have some nightmares. I got to give it to the other retro people out there who do the Mac Classics and the 286s and stuff. When I see that stuff, I like the work. I like the work they're doing. They're really good at it, but it gives me nausea. It's that just reminds me of my business life. Running a business.
So you don't want to.
It gives me no joy. Or IRQs and stuff.
IRQs and
I had machines with IRQ wires running from board to board because this one had IRQ 3 but needed 18 or whatever, and this didn't have. So I made stuff work, but I'm so glad I'm not doing that now. So I do get joy from the retro stuff, but it is retro now. So in the early days, it's like the Mac and PC. It's like McDonald's and Burger King. It's, Atari and Commodore. At least in my neck of the woods in the US, it was Atari and Commodore. Oh, and there's also TI, I guess, and Coco and whatever. Back then. For
Atari and Commodore.
Yeah.
Apple was probably the distant third. But
So what I find very interesting in my journey is now, even though I started the VintNerd, old Mickey and I, Mrs. VintNerd and I started the VintNerd a couple years ago. I started with Atari. That is still my main focus. But what I found really interesting is as I grabbed some of these other 8-bit computers I never owned. Mrs. VintNerd had Commodore. But I never had a TI or a Coco, or I did have the Sinclair. The engineering on those, now retrospectively looking back with the machine in front of me, I'm like, oh, that was great. Or, wow, that's what you did. Yeah. So, I can see it with a different face now because, come on, these are retro relics. You're not gonna. There's always gonna be an exception, but it's not going to be the norm. You're not going to use any of these machines in real world applications.
No.
You can. And it's
there's on that one. Yeah,
there's still a fish tackle shop running some POS on Commodore or Atari ST. And you can make some things happen. It's really fun, but they've seen their day. So now when you look at them, and all the knowledge we have with technology now, networking, the chat crap, and all those things. These things are a very small the technology in them is a very small subset of what we can do nowadays. And you can actually, with that historical knowledge and experience, you can take a look at it. And it's really interesting what they did in those days. Like, I really believe, and maybe any TIers out there, TI 99ers, may agree or disagree or comment, whatever. I don't know much about the TI other than what I've learned in the last couple of years, but I'm impressed. It was put together by engineers. There's no doubt it was put together by engineers with some of the choices they made. Mm-hmm. And some of them I think are really cool, but didn't hit the mark right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's an engineering company.
Yeah, exactly.
They make chips. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So that's what they still do. So but they just decided to make their own computer. So makes sense.
So a lot of the choices they made back then, those were the wars started, mm-hmm. and they needed to make those machines cheaper, and that's why these went to more mushy keyboards and plastic, and less interfaces in the machines. So you have to add things on to get more interfaces. Nowadays we just got USB and plug anything into it.
Yeah. So a lot of things from Nantiro today. So
yeah. So back then, there was the whole, again, in my neck of the woods, Atari, Commodore, it's better. Now it doesn't matter. And you can just look at them and appreciate for what they each did.
Right. For me, only having Atari stuff, I had a friend of mine that had a Commodore, but I went over to his house and played a couple games. I didn't really use it much, but recently, getting some of Commodores, I'm like going, wow, they actually put some cool stuff in this. Like, in the basic, like all the colors you can do and everything, and I'm just like kind of feeling little pangs of like jealousy in a way of like from 40 years back, going, wow, this would have been neat, kind of. Granted, they had the advantage of coming out like several years later with like the 64, mm-hmm. whereas Atari, they came out with the basic 400 and 800. And they just iterated on it, but still had all the backwards compatibility.
Yeah, well,
and Commodore had the advantage. Well, yeah, there's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, the Commodore, they did a clean break, like from the VIC-20 and stuff. We're like, okay, so we're gonna put on a new machine. But they had all the advantages of having all of the prior stuff that Atari did. So it is really kind of interesting to me to see the evolution of that. But it is also interesting. You mentioned the wars. It's like, yes, it's the Commodore versus Atari versus everything else war, and it's everybody, fought for their company, their computer, because it's what they had, and everything else sucked. Even maybe it did, maybe it didn't. So,
then
it's cool to appreciate other machines, though.
Well, talking to the wars, then it went to the Mac and PC wars.
Yeah,
and now do we care? Because now it's like it's the Safari, Google, Chrome Edge wars, yes. Right? And now it's turning into the OpenAI Chat GPT / Bard. Is it like, Bard?
Yeah,
Google Bard?
I keep hearing new ones, but I feel like we need to get like badges, like kind of say, I fought in that war and that war. And it's like, I fought in the computer wars of the 80s.
I survived the browser wars.
The browser wars, there we go.
You didn't know what it was like to use Microsoft Explorer.
So, did you ever have a modem when you had your computers back in the day?
No.
No, you never had a modem. Really?
Never.
Seriously?
No.
Okay, sure.
I had a lot of modems.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So did you call BBSs a lot and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
I did the whole war dialing thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We don't have to go there.
Well, you're talking 40 years ago.
I know, it's such a limitation.
It might be a bank. I don't know what this is. I never did anything.
No, never did.
No, it's just for fun.
No, it's just like dialing into BBSs and stuff. And so when did you start that with the 8-bit or 16-bit or what?
Oh, with the 8-bits.
Okay.
Yeah, my first.
That's right. You posted a thing about that blue modem or whatever.
Yes.
The joystick port modem.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, it's over there somewhere.
300 baud.
300 baud through an Atari joystick port because you didn't need the 850 serial interface.
Exactly.
And that company when they came out with that blue modem, it was the cheapest. There you go. Micro peripherals.
Okay.
It was the cheapest on the block.
I think it was Smart Terminal. I think it was in the cartridge.
Yes.
Smart Terminal.
Yeah.
That's where I started as well.
Yeah.
It was. I don't know about you, but it was just cool just to dial in and be connected to someone else. And the thing is, it's funny, talking about like the wars and stuff, think about all the kids today, like going on the internet and going, oh, this is so slow. It's like, excuse me?
Well, you can connect to a lot of those BBSs now using a web browser.
Yeah. But it was kind of interesting. At 300 baud, you could actually read it as it was going out. It was kind of nice. And then when it went up to faster, it's like, oh, you get a whole page. You can't just read it as it's coming up.
Now it has to have a pause and hit the space bar.
Exactly. But yeah, I was just curious if you'd ever, did you ever start a board at all?
Yeah.
You had a BBS?
Genesis BBS.
Oh, okay.
Out of Syracuse, New York.
Nice.
Area code 315. I don't remember what the number is.
Fine. How long did you run that for?
Until I didn't.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So is this when you were a kid or when you were an adult or?
Yeah. In my later teens, out of my bedroom.
Okay.
I forgot which Atari 8-bit with an ATR 8000 interface with 8-inch disk drives.
Oh wow.
And a dedicated phone line and all.
Wow. Yeah. Uptown here.
I actually have an interesting, sad story.
Okay.
So here I am running a BBS, right? And you're the sysop on the BBS bulletin board system, for those out there that don't know. And I worked at Radio Shack at the time.
So that's how you're able to afford all this stuff. I'm like going, man.
I worked at Radio. I was saying, how do I? I had a job.
That is the thing, man. Because I'm like going, all this stuff's expensive. All like hard drives and stuff. Yeah, hard drive hooked up to an 8-bit. Okay.
Oh no, not hard drive. 8-inch floppy.
8-inch, an 8-inch floppy onto a flop on a.
I know I'm a little older than you.
Yeah, no, an 8-inch floppy.
Yeah.
On a.
Because it's stored more.
Yeah, but that's massive, man. I didn't know you could actually hook up an 8-inch.
It's not that much more, but well, that's what the ATR interface allowed you to do. You use standard drives on it.
Okay.
So a BBS is 1-in-1 unless you have multiple lines, right? I didn't. So my manager at the time dials in, and I'm like, hey, Mr. Man, I won't use names. Hey, Mr. Manager. Yeah, I'm home. And he's like, hey, I have to let you know I'm letting you go.
Oh my God. In your sysop chat?
Yes.
Wow.
And I didn't think about it then.
That's like getting a text today.
Yeah. So I think I may have been the first person fired by text.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know how to prove that.
Yeah,
but if I wasn't the first, I was like a handful.
Yeah.
Of so it's like so impersonal. I'm just looking at the characters on the screen, and it's like, let you go. I'm like, and then I had a friend that actually was working in the same store, and I talked to him later, and he's like, yeah, he seriously did that? What a jerk.
Yeah.
Of course, you're in your teens, everybody's a jerk.
Yeah. It reminds me of like in Back to the Future 2, when he gets a fax that says, I think you're fired on it or whatever,
I don't remember that.
Fired by fax, when we had fax machines. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Today, in the future, Steve Diederich, the first person fired by message, by chat, passed away in rightful age of 138.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
Go way in the future when we're all downloaded into computers, in the singular.
It'll be on my stone.
Yeah.
When we have fired by text.
There you go. That's your claim to fame. That's your 15 minutes of fame. So. Well, I think that's all I had today.
Wow, I feel I got off easy.
Yeah, I have the hard-hitting questions here.
You don't want anything about the arrests or?
No, we'll keep those under wraps.
No, there were none.
Yeah.
They're all sealed.
Yeah.
But
Alrighty.
Well, thanks, Ed.
Yeah, well, thanks for visiting with me. This has been really cool sitting in your awesome studio. I've been coveting all of your machines and just really enjoying seeing all of this stuff. And
well, one of the secret things is, and I mentioned this to you earlier. Yeah. Oh, sure, this is all like an awesome display. So thank you for mentioning that. But it's my storage shelf. This is
there you go.
These were sitting somewhere else, and I'm like, I need them somewhere else on a wall.
Right.
And so it's like it's a twofer.
There you go.
So
yeah,
so thanks.
It makes it look good, and it's all really cool. And you have just so many cool things, and it's just only stuff I've seen in magazines and stuff, never seen.
Well, just picture every little thing is a video I haven't had time to do yet.
Hey, lots of content.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
What about Magic Dump or Instados? You know. So that's
you're gonna do a Zaxxon comparative between the cartridge and the disc.
I actually have a thought.
There is a difference.
There is, yeah. The games are a little bit different, and then there's the loading time and so forth.
Yeah. I think one of them, at the end stage, you go down or not. I think they.
I don't remember
that thing, and I never realized that. And I remember playing the game and being like, "Why is this different?" And I'm like, "Oh, they actually did a 16K version versus like the 48K version or whatever."
Right.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is about it for today. So, see you in the next adventure. Take care.
Hope you liked the interview. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see more videos like this, be sure to click up here. And as always, see you in the next adventure. Take care.